Hey guys, Level Cap here, and welcome to This Week in Gaming, your weekly news recap on everything going on in the world of video games. This week we've got some pretty exciting news about Unreal Engine. Dune Awakening had a wild launch, new Battlefield leaks gave players hope, the Summer Games Fest is kicking off, and much more. Now, before we get into our first big story, I just wanted to mention Summer Games Fest is debuting today while I'm basically doing this voiceover, and it's likely going to include some major reveals for Arc Raiders, Splitgate 2, and a bunch of upcoming titles. So stay tuned for additional coverage, especially if Arc Raiders gets a beta today or a flat-out launch. We'll find out. Now, my personal favorite story this week was a tech demo reveal for The Witcher 4. CD Projekt Red and Epic Games debuted the new tech demo running on Unreal Engine 5.6, showing off some very impressive tech. The environments, character models, and cutscenes all look stunning. Running on a base model PlayStation 5 with ray tracing enabled, hitting 60 FPS. Some of the new technical features showed a very upgraded animation system that can work with things like muscles and bones under the surface of skin for accurate character deformations, a big upgrade to parallel processing of character animations where they showcased hundreds of characters on screen at the same time, taking advantage of all the different threads so that the game could actually still run at a high frame rate. It's also upgrading the nanite tech, which will now support foliage, and there was a really cool demo of just how they're rendering thousands and thousands of trees, all with individually modeled leaves and pine needles and all that stuff. It's pretty wild what they can do. And as Ciri heads into the town in the game, the large crowds of NPCs look incredibly impressive, with high fidelity models and animations used for procedurally automated interactions, like customers buying food from stalls and characters spitting at you as you walk by. A big takeaway from the presentation is that the art style still feels very much in line with The Witcher 3. Photorealism can often make games look a bit too similar to one another, but it's clear CD Projekt Red is not just going for good visuals, but also an artistic flair that very much lumps it into what you would expect from a Witcher vibe. The presentation had a lot of great news for both improving visuals but also optimizing those visuals. Epic says they've optimized many of the core features and systems developers rely on, like Lumen, Nanite, and animation tools. And this is great news for future titles or even current titles, but it's up to developers to port their existing games over to the upgraded engine to take advantage of that tech. As is tradition for MMOs, Dune Awakening launched to mostly negative reviews on Steam due to server stability issues. Thankfully, it seems like the devs have turned things around quickly, and the game now has a very positive review score. It also has over 100,000 concurrent players despite only launching for Deluxe and Ultimate Edition customers. Awakening launches on June 10th for Standard Edition owners. Overall, it seems like people are really enjoying the game, with most player and professional reviewers praising the survival mechanics, base building tools, and the overall world design. The game has been delayed multiple times and gone through several rounds of playtesting. There was also a lot of concern about the hardcore elements being more for show than actually making the game challenging, which doesn't seem to be the case at all. In a small bit of Battlefield news, gameplay of tank vs. tank combat leaked from a recent playtest, and if you manage to watch it before EA gets it taken down, I think you'll be quite impressed. The short clip shows 3 armored vehicles, 2 which are tanks, duking it out in a city street. The surrounding buildings get absolutely obliterated by the combat, and the game sound design is straight up incredible. Whatever concern you may have over the game's direction of class systems, it's clear that the nuts and bolts of the gameplay are shaping up quite nicely. The Nintendo Switch 2 is here, and while there isn't exactly a host of new launch titles for it, the general consensus is that it's a great upgrade for supported Switch 1 titles. The Switch 2 can boost these games up to 4K with stable 60 FPS gameplay. Games that don't have a specific Switch 2 update will run at their maximum handheld resolution and frame rate. Some of the day one titles launching on the Switch 2 include Mario Kart World and very impressive ports of Cyberpunk 2077 and No Man's Sky. As for availability, it's going to vary by region and store, but most retailers seem to have a healthy stock on hand. Hitman developers IO Interactive revealed their upcoming James Bond game, First Light. It's a prequel based on the books and movies that follows Bond's earliest days as a British secret agent. The trademark stealth gameplay IO is known for is sprinkled throughout the trailer between impressive action set pieces and gameplay. Seems like this game is absolutely in the right hands. First Light launches sometime next year. The latest update for No Man's Sky reworks settlements with more bespoke NPCs, new buildings, new types of towns, including ones with sentient robots, plus an expanded overseer role that lets you hire mercenaries to protect the settlements under your control. Ubisoft's XDefiant is officially dead. The servers were taken offline last week with the game's director leaving the company. He says Ubisoft's lack of marketing for the game stalled growth, and the crippling tech debt of the engine that they were given to use caused stability issues and content delays. Star Citizen's 4.2 update is bringing a new dynamic activity to the verse, plus a ton of other updates and even some new content. The new activity is called Stormbreaker. It takes place in data centers on Pyro 4. Players infiltrate these bases to find rare loot and keycards that unlock deeper levels of the bases. And while the core loop of the event is collecting the rare loot, the bases are full of environmental storytelling and narrative elements that play into the game's overall story regarding regen tech, sandworms, and mutants. The 4.2 update also includes dynamic weather with rain that realistically follows cloud patterns, adult Valakars, aka the sandworms, and two new variants of the Atlas exosuit, a combat-focused one called the Ikti and the mining one called the Geo. The 4.2 update will likely make its way over to the live servers in several weeks. PlayStation's State of Play event occurred this week with some huge announcements that also broke viewer records for the long-running first-party event. Nioh 3 was announced with a playable demo for PlayStation 5, a new Thief game for VR was revealed, which is the first new entry in the franchise since the 2014 reboot that launched to generally mixed or negative reviews. Sony also announced a remake of Final Fantasy Tactics, Silent Hill F got a new trailer and a September 25th release date, and finally the Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake had a new gameplay trailer that revealed the game is launching on August 28th. In our final story this week, Borderlands 2 is free to own on Steam as the game gets review bombed. Players are frustrated by the changes to the game's privacy policy that potentially opens the floodgates for collecting user data. Randy Pitchford, CEO of Gearbox, also stirred up controversy by saying true fans would be willing to sacrifice and buy Borderlands 4 for the $80 if they had to. And that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. If you guys enjoy the weekly news coverage, don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe for more content like it, and up next, check out my video covering the most recent update to Gray Zone Warfare. This game has come a long way since it launched in early access, and I think it's finally starting to hit its stride. It offers something new in the pseudo extraction shooter space, and it's worth checking out, or at least checking out my video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.